In this question, we're going to work out the frequency of light coming out of your phone. So, the question says, the wavelength of the microwave light from your snazzy new Android is 2.8 centimeters. Centimeters. So already I'm thinking, should I convert that to meters? Calculate the frequency of the waves in hertz, which is how you measure waves frequency. So, all to do, you write down, same as always, speed equals frequency equals wavelength equals, and get ready to fill them in. So the first thing you got to do is figure out what you're being asked here. So it says calculate the frequency. Well, I'll just write down a little question mark next to the frequency, and that tells me that they're probably going to give me speed and wavelength in some way or another, and then I'm going to have to bang those into the triangle and get out my frequency. So the next thing you do is you fill in your other variables. As I said, speed, well, I'll get back to that in 1 second. There's a little trick in this question. Wave or frequency, I don't know, so I'll leave that blank. Wavelength, it just tells me the wavelength is there, 2.8 centimeters. Now, why have I written down 0.028? Because I've converted it into meters. It's best to stick in meters unless you think it's going to get very messy. A lot of the formulas really are only going to work out if all your units are in meters. So, okay, the next thing. I am going to get my triangle into gear. Before I do that, I need to figure out what the speed was. Now, there is one tiny trick in this. And the good news is that in these questions, there is only one trick. It's always the same. It's always speed can be one of three things. It can either be what they tell you, so they'll either tell you it's, 5 meters per second or a million meters per second, or they could give you the speed of sound. So what they might say there is some guy singing a note, some gorilla is grumbling, anything that has sound in it. Your speed is going to be 340. Sometimes it's 330. It really depends on the questions. But you can just take it to be the speed of sound, which you will be given somewhere on your page. And lastly, it could be, if they're talking about any kind of radiation, the speed of light. So that's if it's light shining in your eyes, if it's radio, microwave, UV, gamma, X-ray, ultraviolet, visible, any of those things, they're all kinds of light. So in that case, your speed would be 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. So in this case, let's look at the question again. It says microwave light, so it's going to be an easy pick here, and that was their trick, and we've now foiled their evil plans, because we figured out that they've given us light, and that's where our speed is going to come from. So we can just write in there 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second for our speed. And now I'm looking there, I'm seeing we've got speed, we've got wavelength, we may be set to use the triangle. We've got 2 out of 3, and that's all I need for the triangle. So once I've got speed and wavelength, which I have, I do my usual thing. I just put my finger over one side of the triangle. I'm trying to find frequency here, so wherever the question mark is, you stick your finger over that. My triangle says I've got speed, line, wavelength, which is speed divided by wavelength will give you my frequency. So my speed, as I said, was 3 times 10 to the 8. My wavelength was 0.028 meters. And if you divide speed by the wavelength, you'll find that the answer is something like 1 times 10 to the 10 hertz. Hertz is going to be the unit of frequency here. And 1 times 10 to the 10 it's a pretty big number. It's about 1.5 times the world population. So big frequency there. But that kind of makes sense because my wavelength was 0.2028 of a meter. So anytime, and this is always true, anytime you have a very large wavelength, you'll have a small frequency, and anytime you have a big frequency, you'll have a tiny wavelength like we have here. They're inversely proportional. If you're having trouble, and most people where they go wrong in this is probably messing around with the 3 times 10 to the 8, the scientific notation. Just check out the website, and under useful links, there's a little thing you can click to help you out with scientific notation. Basically, it can be difficult sometimes to figure those numbers out on your calculator. But that's it. I mean, it's not that bad. Righto.